The first theory is about Panache Barber. Panache Barber is described as 300 pounds, and based on his lack of discipline, I don't think he's a fully trained career. Like, he might have done some weightlifting, some sword fighting. I don't think he's a properly fully trained, disciplined martial artist career tribute. He is not. First of all, 300 pounds. There's no way you're going to be 300 pounds unless you're either overweight or you're like ridiculously like 6'10" or tall. So the fact that Panache is 300 pounds is telling us that maybe he's not a fully trained career. Maybe he just got rigged into the reaping, just like Haymitch, just like even Wulu, just like Ampert, because he is the victor's brother or cousin or whatever. My theory is that Panache has actually been rigged into the reaping. So, okay, I have a theory. I just told you. Panache Barber had been rigged into the reaping of the 50th Hunger Games because he was a brother of another victor. Now, what's the evidence? First of all, is Panache's introduction. He's 300 pounds. Some of you are going to just look over, just going to go right over your head. But if you really think of it, like even Cato is 220 pounds. The careers are big and strong, but they're not super heavyweights. They're not fat asses. They're like mostly light heavyweights. Like in the UFC, you call them light heavyweights, basically. Like 160 to 180 pound girls and like 200 to 250 pound guys. Or 180 to 200 to 240 pound guys, right? Because once your body weight goes, especially over 230 or 240 pounds, your endurance, typically, you won't find many high endurance people above that. That's why American football players, where they take a lot of breaks in the game, can be way bigger. But rugby players, you almost never see one bigger than 240 pounds, and that's like the tallest of the tall. That was how the careers were in the 74th Hunger Games, when they were much more organized, much more professional. Panache Barber is 300 pounds, which 99.9% of the time means you're overweight. So I imagine him as like this like really muscular, but also huge bellied guy, right? Then his second piece of evidence that Panache is rigged into the reaping is his lack of discipline. Like, I cannot imagine how even the most, the most violent, the most psychopathic, and the dumbest career could be stupid enough to just go randomly punching people and he's going to get tasered by peacekeepers in training, right? A real career has been trained from birth. They're going to be a disciplined, a mentally focused martial artist. Okay, this is not a disciplined martial artist. This is not a guy who's been doing serious training. Well, first of all, he's probably really fat. And second of all, he just goes around bullying people. He grabs the District 9 sunflowers. Like, even in the book, Cato was not a blind bully. He didn't go around punching people randomly during training. In fact, I even think that the stolen knife, that was actually added in the movie. It was not even in the book. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure Cato was much more disciplined. Marvel was much more disciplined. Marvel had a reason for killing Rue first. That was to distract Katniss. I theorized, Gloss actually told him that's going to be another video. But yeah, second is his complete lack of discipline. He's acting like a dumb bully. Third is lack of any mental strategy. If he was a properly trained tribute, even if he had no brain cells of his own, he'd have a mental strategy. Cato had a strategy. Brutus has a strategy, right? Caesar Flickerman had already been the host for over 20 years at this point. He was used to tributes have, telling us how they'd used both the combination of brawn and brain to win the Hunger Games, because he needed both. And Panache just being in a bind, trying to be dominant, that sounds like overcompensating. Like, if you knew that other people from your district were mostly training their entire lives, and you were not training much, you were just lifting weights for a few years for fun, then yeah, you would feel insecure too. You would try to overcompensate by your massive size as well. That makes a lot of sense. That's the third thing. Fourth thing, how are the careers picked? It's never said, but I think that the careers are picked based on their suitability and based on their attitude, right? They find the biggest, the strongest, the toughest kids, and of course they have to have that warrior mindset. You have to handle the training. I really think that the careers training is just simply so brutal, and they have to start from so young that only the naturally strongest kids even get through it. I think that's why they're all big and strong. Not just because they're training, but the reason that you won't ever find a small career is because these kids have to be kids who were strong. Like, even though they're freaking 7 years old, they were already strong enough to pick up like an axe or a sword or something, which is really heavy for a little kid, and actually fight with that. I think that is why, like a dummy accident story. I think that's why the career is like even the smallest one's 150, 160 pounds, right? So here's the thing: they would not select a career attribute solely on being the brother or just related to another career attribute. They'd carefully select, as in they both self-select and outwardly select the strongest of his kids. Okay, just because your big brother is a warrior bodybuilder dude doesn't mean that you're going to be tough, right? And the fourth piece of evidence that Panache Barber's what's that reaping was rigged was that Katniss, Haymitch, and Lucy realized as well that the rigged reapings are common, that they were commonplace, that the 50th Hunger Games itself had at least two rigged reapings, at least, and possibly more. Katniss also says that the children of previous victors are often rigged. Why not the little brothers of previous victors too? Glass and Kashmir are not the same case. Both of them were tough enough, but Palladium, and Panache, I don't think so. Because let's see, Panache is fat and disciplined. Let's see, even when he takes his weapon, he doesn't take a weapon that requires a lot of skill. He takes a sword and a shield. Japanese people now, not that doesn't mean they're low in skill, but let's just see, a sword and a shield, you don't need a lot of skill to operate that, as compared to things like a spear, bow, throwing knives. But that's a very weak piece of evidence, frankly, compared to everything else. But yeah. Hmm. Another one about the lack of strategy, how he's targeting the District 12 boy, who is usually the weakest, and the District 9 kids who are actually, I think they're supposed to be weak in this one. This too, this one career is going to try and go after stronger people. Or, if in the case of Marvel, they're going to try and kill the weaker allies of stronger people in order to distract and destroy the stronger people so they can kill the stronger people more easily after psychologically breaking them, right? But I mean, their main targets can be the stronger people. Panache goes after the weaklings. That speaks to lack of strategy. That also speaks to him not having a proper mentor, not properly preparing for the games, and maybe he's just a hobby weightlifter or someone who swings around wood for fun. This is not a properly trained career. So that's what I can tell you. Panache Barber's reaping, even though he's the biggest, meanest bully in all of the Hunger Games books, his reaping was rigged. That's what I think.